2. A lot going on in the world, Jimmy. We have kind of what I would say is an interesting topic today. We seem to be experiencing somewhat of a subtle retreat from the left. What should we? Well, let's lay it out for the folks first, and then figure out what we should read into that, if anything at all.
Well, yeah, they have been the culture of no, or mask, or you can't go outside and enjoy life anymore, and kids have to be masked up all the time, and the cancel culture. Let's not forget that. I mean, you can't say anything against the agenda that the left is leading, and if you do, then you get canceled. And so all of a sudden, we're starting to see people kind of like step up and say, enough is enough. So not only enough is enough, but we're starting to see a retreat. You're right. That was a good word for it. That is a great word for it. There is a retreat going on right now because they see the poll numbers. They see how President Biden, his poll numbers continue to slip. And there was just
it's down in the 30s now. It's like 38, Real Clear Politics average.
Yeah. And today, just listening to an economist as I was coming over here, was talking about how the level, it was 7% on the increase of goods everywhere across the United States, and it's the highest that it's ever been for the longest time. Right. And so when Democrats don't think that Republicans used to be vote for it's the economy, stupid. Remember?
Right.
Remember when what's his name said that?
That was the first Bush, right?
No, that was Clinton's.
Clinton?
That was a Clintonian.
I voted for Clinton.
Yeah, well,
twice.
I didn't, but anyway, so I lost twice. Anyway, all of a sudden, they're starting to change their mind, and of course, the cancel culture just had to cancel one of their own, which was like,
which they've canceled a few people. So we talking Whoopi or are we talking Zucker?
Well, first off, Whoopi. Well, Zucker's an interesting topic, and I'll go with that in a second. But Whoopi said, because she said that the Nazis killing the Jews didn't have anything to do with race. That's what she said.
Which is weird.
Yeah, which is an ill-informed person. That's how I look at it.
Is Whoopi Jewish because her last name's Goldberg?
Well, that's a funny story.
Or did she just take the Goldberg name?
I think she just took the Goldberg name because her real name isn't. It's like
it's
Karen
not
something.
Whoopi.
Yeah. But
So it was funny to see, by the way, people on CNN upset that the cancel culture was out of control with Whoopi. So
Joyce Behar the very next day said that Whoopi will be back. That's all we're going to say, and that was kind of like
Whoopi was going to quit.
Yeah,
because she got suspended for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And but then I watched in the news, and everybody's upset that the cancel culture is out of control. But it's only out of control, it seems, when they're canceling their own people.
When they eat their own.
Yeah.
You know?
So what did I tell you a year ago? The snake will begin to eat its own tail. I think we're beginning to see that.
I was going to repeat that statement because I think it's a valid statement right now because we are. But why are we? We have to be wise here.
Wise as serpents.
We have to be wise here because the only reason they're doing it is that they know that the midterm elections are coming up. The midterm elections are right around the corner. And they're losing everywhere.
Yeah, so I think they've overplayed their hand. So they realize they've overplayed it. I think this is a retreat, but not a surrender. So they're going to retreat, regroup, and come back with. So they're conditioning us to get used to the insanity of the conversation, right? So I think the only real difference morally between the left and the right is that the left is insane. Like they don't know if there's more than two. They think there's more than two genders, right? There's so many bizarre things going on. The same people that told us to trust the science when it comes to being more than two genders wants us to trust the science with the mask, which, by the way,
is starting to go away. Yeah.
The science has changed. The science is settled, and now it's changed.
Yep.
So they've got to recognize that average people don't trust them anymore. You think?
Oh,
I think they're thinking we've overdone it. That nobody trusts us. We played too many angles at the same time. I think when they come back, they'll pick 2 or 3 things to work on constantly till they get them. Then they'll move on. But to try to play to try to win every battle at once was too much. They couldn't fool the American people with that broad of an attack. That's what I think.
Well, and okay, let's talk about the positives of COVID, because we don't ever talk about the positives of COVID. You ready for this? Hear me out here.
Okay, I've binge watched a lot of cool stuff. That's positive.
Okay. They sent our kids home to do video training.
Yeah.
Okay. Guess what the parents did?
They listened in.
They started listening in. Teachers got upset, wanted rules that said the parents couldn't listen to what was going on. Parents started hearing things they didn't like. And then what happened? Virginia, which was mostly a purple state, leading more blue than red, all of a sudden said, we've had enough. And what happened next? I mean, it was an all-out assault. And it still is going on. It has not stopped. We may think that it has stopped. It hasn't. There's an all-out assault on parents right now. And it doesn't work. It doesn't work. So their tactics are, and this was the positive thing about COVID, parents finally started to pay attention to what their kids are being taught. And parents said, no, this isn't right. You're not going to teach critical race theory. You're not going to teach that America's bad. You're not going to teach that this country was built on the backs of slavery. You got to stop this.
So if it wasn't for COVID, would the parents have even known to put up that battle? In other words, I think I think people like me, the conspiracy theorists of the world, were saying, this is insanity. You and I were saying it.
Yeah.
But the average person was thinking Jim and Kev are crazy.
Right.
Now all of a sudden they say, I used to think Glenn Beck was crazy. Maybe he is, but he's not as crazy as I thought he was.
No.
Right?
No.
So I think we're beginning. I think to your point, you're right that COVID alerted us to some degree of what was going on. I think, and wasn't a huge Trump fan, but he did a good job, and I think he was a necessary interruption. He exposed to people like me, kind of in the middle type people, how insane Washington politics are or is, right?
Well, I'm going to continue to go back and kind of rebut you on Trump. Okay. When we're in a war, we ask our Navy SEALs or our Army Rangers, those bad guys, guys that you don't want to see standing behind you because it's your life's over with at that moment in time. We send them into the deepest, darkest parts of war to get the job done. The public hired a warrior, a bully.
A bully, yeah.
A guy that was going to step in and say, listen, I don't play politics. And if you punch me, I'm going to punch you back. And because of that, we didn't like him. But yet, the unemployment numbers went the lowest it's been since they remember.
Yeah, even
Gas
amongst minority groups and women and everything was
everything.
better.
Everything.
Yeah.
The border was being closed down. All these different, and this was with a constant attack of the left on BS things that should.
Well,
they haven't done. They haven't done this year.
You're making my point. So I think that he was a necessary interruption. So we needed to see how screwed up everything was, right? And only conspiracy theorists, which one man's conspiracy theory is another man's spoiler alert, right?
Yeah.
They always seem to turn out to be true.
Yeah.
I think he had to expose these things to people that they would wake up, that they would activate or
right.
revigorate. So for me, the left, I thought it was twisted, but I didn't know how twisted until Trump became president, right? And then I find myself rooting for Trump. I thought he'd be out in a month. I thought Pence was going to be president the whole time. I find myself rooting for Trump because they can't lay a glove on the poor guy.
Right.
And everybody, including for 2 years, the Republicans are out to get the guy.
Yeah.
And I'm not a huge fan of the Republicans either. So it became like an underdog, like a supervillain that you want, like Deadpool. He's a bad guy, but you want him to win, right?
Yeah.
Well, he's an inappropriate guy.
Yeah.
He's not a bad guy. He's a good guy, but he's an inappropriate good guy.
Right.
Which is kind of what Trump was, right?
Yeah.
So I agree with you that so certain things that have happened that some people would look at as a negative had a blessing in there, right? So there was some positives coming out of
Well,
it.
and let's talk about this. We were all upset over his tweets. I mean, it used to drive me insane to hear people talk about his tweets. If you just shut up. But yet, we allow the Democrats to come into office and shut what we're talking about here, the cancel culture, allow them to just go after people left and right. Okay, real quick, going back to Whoopi Goldberg real quick, because I know we're kind of jumping around here a lot. Whoopi Goldberg, if she was a conservative, they would be screaming. She would have been fired. You're absolutely right, yeah. Jessica. She would have been fired. There would have been no, if she'd have said something along the same lines as a conservative, they would have just crucified her. Where they didn't, they gave her a 2-week suspension. Now, let me say this for Whoopi.
And they were upset about that.
Yeah, and they were upset about that. But let me say this about Whoopi. I got to give her credit. She went out and she said, "I was wrong. I'm sorry."
Oh, yeah, she apologized.
She apologized. That was more than any other liberal we have seen in a long time.
Well, they've never had to apologize, which is kind of the theme of the show here today.
Yeah.
So I think that they're beginning to see, I think that that the network would, if this was not an election year, would not have even suspended Whoopi.
Right.
But I think they're realizing that things are going to go pretty bad in November.
Right.
And so they need to position themselves as positively as possible to even hope to not take too bad. I don't think they I think it goes either absolutely horribly or horribly. I don't think there's a good scenario for the left. But I think it's very temporary. I think we see this political pendulum swing out of control all the time. So to talk about what's his name? Zucker?
Yeah, Zucker. All right, so let's go to him.
So Zucker gets what is this? What website? Fox News? CNN? Oh, yeah. Fox News. Yeah. All right, I'm going to put this on the screen.
Yeah, Fox News.
All right, I'm going to put it on the screen. So Fox News.
We lost half our listeners right
there.
Yeah.
So the new CNN head, Jeff Zucker, who resigned because he started having an affair during COVID that apparently started 25 years ago.
Right.
So we know that's not the reason that he resigned, right? The CNN's viewership is like 10% of what it was a year ago. I mean, it has absolutely collapsed. The guy did not do a good job. I often wondered in my conspiratorial mind if the Democrats were paying CNN to keep them afloat, and so they can continue
subsidize
to make
them. Yeah.
So then all of a sudden people are shocked that if you are still shocked that the left controls the media in this country, you need your head examined.
Yeah.
You're just detached.
Right.
So anyway, the guy that's taken over for Zucker, his name is Zaslav, David Zaslav, right?
Right.
He's from the Discovery Channel, was a big Trump supporter, as it turns out.
Yeah.
And but he's already said that he accidentally said that and then we're the leaders in the news to the left. Zaslav said by accident on CNBC. So Fox, basically Fox and the internet is for the right, and he accidentally said that everybody else is for the left, or CNN was for the left.
Right.
Now, is he going? The rumor is that they're going to make CNN a reliable, centrist, objective news channel.
They're trying. They want to bring it back.
It used to be, by the way.
Yeah, they want to bring it back to the way it used to be.
Yeah, I think we need that.
Well, I want to go back to Zucker for a second, because this is a snake eating itself. Okay, you got to go back and really investigate what happened here. Okay, Zucker's been having this relationship with this woman for over 20 years. There were a lot of people that knew it. And nobody said anything because he's the president of CNN, or he was the leader.
And as it turns out, everybody at CNN was like one big orgy. Everybody at CNN was sexually harassing somebody.
They just arrested one of their top cameramen or producers or something like that.
A producer for pedophilia.
Yeah, pedophilia.
Kiddie porn or something.
But all of a sudden, it's like I said, the snake is eating itself, because when they fired Chris Cuomo,
he blackmailed him into
everything blew up. Everything blew up because he knew all the skeletons in the closet. So when people want to talk about that
Would they have stuck with him if they didn't fire Chris Cuomo? Would he have blackmailed him? Yeah, I guess.
So no, I'm no guess. I mean this.
Who's paying the bills at CNN? It can't be advertising.
Yeah, no.
Right. So where's all the money? What kept CNN afloat the last few years? Nobody watches.
Like I said, nobody wants. You know, I mean, if you go and look, Chris Cuomo turns on CNN. It's about to be war. Okay. I mean, these are the type of things that came out after he's let go, because he thought he was the big man on campus. Chris Cuomo thought he was the guy. Yeah. His brother's the governor. I mean, he's like the
and he
guy.
was. I mean, he was the guy. He said some dumb things and got a pass.
Yeah. He did.
He said
a lot of dumb
things. Crazy things.
Yeah.
I mean, some bizarre things.
Yeah.
Like like he had COVID and he was doing videos on the lockdown. Meanwhile, he's out and about.
Yeah, he was looking at a piece of property.
With cab drivers.
Yeah.
And whatever he was doing out there. So he is. And this is one of the things that bother me, and it's the elitist mentality.
Thank you.
That so the government and big business and politicians in Hollywood can tell us how we have to live, and then they don't live that way, and we see example after example after example after example. The California governor, the Los Angeles mayor, taking pictures with Magic Johnson, who's a 62-year-old guy that's overweight and has HIV. And they're still unmasked. I mean, if you need to be masked near anybody, it's this guy, right?
Right.
I mean, AOC coming to Florida to party.
Yeah.
Because you don't need to wear a mask down here. Yet up there, she's complaining about Florida not wearing masks.
Stacey Abrams just got caught.
Yeah, she's
sitting in the midst of all these kids who are masked up. Who every doctor out here talks about how masks are so terrible for kids. And nobody wants to listen to the science. Nobody wants to listen to it. And these are people that are smart, not like you and me.
Here's the problem with the science, buddy. This is also Fox. CNN medical analyst supports Democrat-led states dropping school mask mandates because the science has changed.
Sorry.
The science is settled.
Yeah.
And now the science has changed.
But the White House still promotes it.
Yeah.
And guess who's behind that? The teachers' unions.
Yeah. The teachers' unions, I think, are a big problem.
Yeah,
I mean, that whole smaller class size thing hasn't helped anything but the unions.
Yeah,
it hasn't helped the teachers or the students.
Yeah, and but here's the other thing. They sank all this money into schools to get them COVID, like the shields and all these things like this, so the kids could sit there and not have to have the mask on because of everything else, the plexiglass and all that stuff like this. But yet when they were going back to school, they were saying, we're not ready yet. We still need more money. Well, where did the money go? Where did the money go?
Yeah.
Don't tell me that if we give you so much money to make yourself COVID ready, and then you come back and say, because, you're the one that told us how much.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, we just said, hey, we're going to give you $2 million. And you looked at us and go, that's not enough. We need $5 million. And we go, okay, fine, we'll give you $5 million.
Oh, yeah, and they're talking billions, by the way.
They're talking billions. Yeah. They're talking billions. So where did the money go?
My son's charter school, Florida went back to school early. My charter school went back without mask mandates for the kids, and not a single outbreak of COVID in the school. I mean, not that people didn't get COVID, but it didn't spread like crazy. Every once in a while, I get an email, maybe 3 times, that somebody in the school tested positive, and keep an eye on things.
Yeah, but the Omicron, most people went through it like it was a cold and just kept moving, didn't even stop. So it's.
It seems to me, the left is positioning themselves. They're retreating from all their beloved positions, right?
Yeah.
But I suggest this to you, that they're not, like, we haven't heard from Antifa and Black Lives Matter in a long time, but that doesn't mean they're not in. They're in the alley doing push-ups, right? So they are getting bigger and stronger and more organized and preparing for the next opportunity.
We have heard of Black Lives Matters here recently.
What
that was that one of their leaders was charged and or found guilty of voting fraud, I believe.
Well, don't get me started on voter fraud. I think that to think that they didn't cheat and commit fraud in the last election is insane.
Yeah, but we'll get canceled.
I know people I love and respect that think that didn't happen. I find it very hard to believe that 80 million people voted for Biden, more than voted for Obama. I find that hard to believe.
Well, we'll get canceled again. Stop it. Look, right here. Memphis Black Lives Matters founder, not just a member, the founder, one of the founders, sentenced for illegally voting. She voted in 6 different For 6 years, she was a convicted felon. She knew that she couldn't vote, and she still voted.
Oh, okay.
So they convicted her, and for illegally registering to vote in Tennessee. So
well, that is. I mean, that's not good, but it is minuscule compared to the corruption in our. I would tell you this: that since we have lost faith in the electoral process, the republic has already fallen. I think
I'm not giving up yet.
I'd be surprised if the Republicans won another national election.
Well, I think you're going to be wrong there, but that's just my personal opinion.
I'd be shocked.
Because
who's going to nobody kept them in check the last time. They literally circumvented state election laws, and nobody really said or did anything.
Yeah, well,
anybody.
Okay, but look who is in power. The reason why nobody's done anything is because look who is in power. Look who is in power.
I think the Republicans even got on their heels about it. I mean,
because they knew that it was worthless to fight over it. Spend your time the right way. Start to expose things. Listen, let's get the House and the Senate. Let's do that first. Let's pay attention to the House and the Senate. Because you want to know what one of the first things is going to happen? You want to know what one of the first things that's going to explode on them, on the Democrats? And this is why they're afraid right now. Because Hunter Biden, that whole thing is going to implode on them.
Well,
when that implodes, the President of the United States has got some questions he has to answer.
I hope you're right, but I have yet to see.
Oh, come on!
I have yet to see a politician turn on a politician. In other words, they stage it. How many investigations have we done going back to Obama and before Obama?
Not turning on a politician,
and nothing ever happens. Nobody ever gets in trouble.
Does the name Nancy Pelosi mean anything to you?
Where is she right now?
She turns on every Republican.
And where are they right now? None of them are in jail. They don't.
Well, of course they're not.
They will never.
Yeah,
they will never really turn on each other. It's all theater. It's all theater.
No, yeah.
How in the world are they? Do they continue
Then we
to
vote
get away
those
with
people
the
out. Then we vote those people out.
I think now you're onto something.
Okay, but that's what I'm getting at.
I think
we take the House.
I think
and the
we
Senate.
bring the power back to the states and screw the federal government.
Well, I don't have a problem with that either. But I'm just going to say that we bring the power back into the House and the Senate and start watching what investigations happen. Here's an interesting one. There's a Texas Republican that has had his office. The Capitol Police have went into his office and done illegal searches, taken pictures of his whiteboards of things because he and a couple of the other Republicans are doing their own private investigation on January the 6th because of two main reasons. Two people that were there, two of the instigators that were there are from the left. Two of the major instigators, one was with Black Lives Matters, and the other one was with this conspiracy group that thinks that all Republicans are bad. Two of these guys are there, but they're never talking about those two. They're never talking about those two because there's video of them standing on walls and saying, we're going into the Capitol, and other people were saying, no, that's not right, Oh, we're going to take over the Capitol. So who are those two people? We don't know. You don't know.
No, I think if you're telling me that they staged some of that, I'm not surprised, man. I think there were federal agents that were involved in it. I think there were federal agents involved in the Black Lives Matter riots of the summer. I think the American people look at this display, this circus, and they think to themselves,
we're tired of it.
I don't trust anybody.
No, we don't. We have to change that.
Yeah. So and in that, I think things are worse than we think it is. I think the American people are not going to just say, all right, let's just give up and give in and give up our freedoms. They're just not going to do it. Look at the Canadian truckers.
Yeah.
I mean, how much pressure did they put on their government, and how much pressure are they putting on our government right now? I mean, they are I think our government's scared to death that our truckers might do the same thing.
Sure they are.
And by the way, I am. Where's our food going to come from?
Yeah. I'm hoping that we don't. Representative Troy Niels has improperly, he says, Texas GOP congressman accuses Capitol Police of improperly photographing confidential material inside his office. They come in like they're checking the office at nighttime.
Oh, I heard about this.
They also came in dressed as construction workers
and took pictures of
his office and questioned members of his staff.
Yeah.
Because and listen, let me say something.
I heard about that. I don't know why I didn't think of that. That's craziness.
Let me talk about this guy just for a second. On January 6th, him and another Republican were standing side by side with Capitol Police. They had broken off sticks to try to keep the protesters from getting into the White House. So this is the type of guy he was. He was trying to protect the Capitol with Capitol Police. But as he got to talking to them, he found out that they knew more. They knew this was going to happen. They knew it was going to happen. But yet they did nothing to fight it. Trump was ready to send in troops, National Guard, to help them protect the Capitol. They knew it, and they refused it. So there's a lot of things going on out here.
Yeah, and who's going to hold them accountable for all that?
Listen, we are right now.
Maybe.
We are right now because, listen, if we put those people into power, especially in states that are blue, there's a New York congressman running right now that knows he's got an uphill battle. But he had an interesting, because even you, I'm going to use you as the example, okay?
Me personally?
You personally.
Cool.
I'm going to use you as the example, as an example.
Okay.
Okay? You switched from being a certified Democrat to a registered Republican.
Eventually, yeah.
No, eventually. No,
I was an independent for a long time.
It took you, but you switched to a Republican.
Yeah.
This congressman was talking about that he knows all of these people that are left, that are Democrats. He had a neighbor that was staunch liberal, just to the far side. They moved away, and this person called his wife. They were friends. They were friends, even though they on different sides, which is the way it should be. She called his wife and said, "I just want to let you know, I'm sick and tired of what they're doing to our kids in school. I'm sick and tired of the gas prices. I'm sick and tired of the inflation that's going on. I'm switching to a Republican. I just went and registered as a Republican."
Yeah, I did it this year.
He says that he has talked to it's showing. There's poll after poll after poll that's showing, and they don't want to talk about this because they're afraid that people are tired of what's going on. There is I'm reading a book right now, A Matter of Honor. I'm going to give a shout out to Charles Henry here. It's about the American Revolution. And when you read the book, it talks about how it really kind of got started. And it was because it is so real today. Because the government of England looked at the Americans as servants, as servient, as dumb, didn't know what to do, all these things like this, and was going to tax them to the nth degree just to bring them back under power. What is going on right now? The Democrats look at us as stupid. Teachers unions look at the parents and say, you don't know how to raise your kid.
They flat say you should have no say in
You should have no say in how you raise your kid. You should have no say in the education. So if you don't think there's a ground, I mean, seriously, there is hope. We have to put our faith, and first off, God, to me, I really truly feel that God is awakening the Christians, because look at us too.
Yeah.
In the past, we probably wouldn't be sitting here doing this. In the past, we would be kind of like talking to people and saying, yeah, I vote Republican, or you vote Democrat, whatever. But right now, I just see it. And all of these people, the guy today talking from New York said, we cannot walk in the door and do something great in 30 days and then sit back and say, look at us.
Yeah.
Look at, I'm going to say, of course, get in trouble here again. Jesus Christ Superstar, okay, 1970, if you remember.
Yeah, I don't remember, but
okay.
I've heard of it.
Yeah. The apostles are all sitting around going, look at all the things that we've done great. This was the Last Supper, know.
Yeah.
And they've got this song, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was like, and when I can retire, I'll have a place in heaven or something like this. And they don't realize what's about to happen. They don't realize that they still don't understand that Christ is going to be crucified. And when he comes back after 3 days, and they go to Antioch, not Antioch, they go to the room in Antioch. Yeah, it's Antioch. And the Holy Spirit comes in. These guys are going to die for their belief. There are parents right now that are so fired up. They're ready to take on anybody. FBI, come at me. You want to listen to my phone calls? Listen to my phone calls. But see, the government still has the IRS, and that's the one that scares me more than anything else. And what did they want to do? They wanted to look at your bank account to see if you spent over $600 because they want to know why.
It's not unprecedented that they would militarize or weaponize the IRS, because we've done it before.
Yeah.
So we're at the halfway point. So you brought it up. Let's bring it up. How does the church? Here's the thing. I think I think we need to bring things back. If I was going to advise my church, my flock, I would say we need to bring things back to the family, right? To the church, to the community. I think, and you've heard me say this before, and I don't know how sane or insane it is, but I think that we should do away with federal income tax, have state income tax, have the states kick up to the federal government for basic goods and services, so that the federal government would be beholden to the state rather than the state being beholden to the federal government, and we then can hold our state governments more accountable. We have 50 states, so we can, which is what's happening right now. We could move around and we take our votes and our tax dollars with us, right? So I think the states are more likely to be responsive to the will of the people than the federal government by far.
All right, you just lost everybody. Lost everybody.
Does everybody stop watching?
Yeah, because you make a valid point. You make an excellent point But that is not what we should be looking at right now. If I want to get my parents to follow with us, we have to start looking at what they're doing to the kids. Why this school system, the public school system, except in different areas. Listen, there's good school systems. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to bash every school system. But even in our own backyard, when a teacher shows up, a male teacher shows up, dressed in a dress, and says, you're going to call me Mrs. So-and-so from now on, you want to talk about confusing your kids, and the parents were not allowed to do anything about it.
That was in Pasco?
That was in Pasco.
Crazy. How crazy, I never heard of it. That's
I
good.
don't know.
My kids go to school in Pasco.
Yeah.
It would be nice if I got an email about that.
Nothing. This guy showed up. And what the school immediately did said, hey, listen, we need to take every type of gender into consideration. And we need to look, okay, fine. But you don't walk in one day in a dress.
And I don't know that.
And this person now has had the change, and still they talk about she still looks like a male. It confuses people because every once in a while a kid will go, yes, sir.
We should do a show about this because I don't think we're helping people who are struggling, whatever that gender identification issue is. I don't think we're helping them by acquiescing or pandering to that fantasy. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So, I mean, I don't mean to be mean, but we're not really I don't think we're making a difference or helping people, and we are hurting people around them, right? So we really should discuss that deeper because it's clearly a thing. It's clearly a problem.
Sure.
And it's a growing problem. I think more people are gender confused now maybe than they were 10 years ago. I think for a lot of reasons. Maybe it's becoming more attractive or more popular to be gender confused. I mean, I think anybody and everybody, including you and I, are susceptible to that psychosis.
Look at what they did. They created the emoji that shows a pregnant man.
Yeah.
Really? Show me that case. Show me. It would make world news.
It would be a woman that thought she was a man.
Yeah. It would be world news. Okay. So how do we get people to look?
What do we tell our congregation?
Exactly.
At the 34-minute mark.
All right. Midterm elections are some of the worst for people to vote. This has to be all hands on deck. People have to vote the midterm elections. They have to. Yeah. And what they need to know is who is for our children or who is for teachers. Yeah. Because there's a big difference between the two. We have so many people that are pulling their kids out and teaching them, which puts a burden on them. I understand that. Great. But why should we have to do that? We're paying for this.
Yeah.
Why shouldn't we feel comfortable that when we pay the public schools to teach our children, they're not bringing in a book, a sexual-oriented book, that they won't even read at the school board because it's too explicit?
Well, here's the thing, Jim.
Wait.
We do it because the federal government holds dollars over our school board's
Exactly
heads.
right.
So the Department of Education can go, as far as I'm concerned. Let the states handle this.
I agree with you, but this is how we get people out there to vote. These are the things that we want to see change. We want to see that the parents have more pull, more input, more saying about what their children are being taught.
Absolutely.
And if you don't like that, then maybe you shouldn't be as powerful as you are because They want the mask mandate. They want all. They're destroying our children right now. So that's one. That's one we talk to the church about. The second thing we talk about is whether or not the government is pro-church for us. Because right now the Catholic Church has sent a letter to the Department of Justice saying you're more concerned about domestic terrorist parents than you are about all the Catholic churches that are being vandalized right now. You're not looking at it as hate crimes. You're not even paying attention to it. It's all out there. The Catholic Church is complaining about this because they're more concerned about parents that disagree with the school board. So that's the second
anybody
thing.
that disagrees with
anybody,
them, by the way.
yeah.
It's insane.
That's the second
Look at what
thing.
they're doing to Joe Rogan right now.
You know what? In my mind, Spotify, the stock just went up for me. I'm telling you, I'm going to keep paying those people.
Rumble offered him $100 million to switch.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if we shouldn't switch.
We could.
For free. At least they put our videos up.
Hey, we'll go.
At least they wouldn't block our videos.
I don't care how
I got to figure out how to do it, but
I don't care.
Maybe we should do that.
Inflation. It affects every single person. My running buddy, my good friend, we're running one day, and he says, well, this doesn't really affect me. And I said, really? Have you filled up with gas lately? Well, yeah. Have you noticed the increase in price? You know.
Does he buy groceries?
Yeah.
What does he eat?
Well, his wife kind of buys it, but he goes, yeah, I've seen. He runs a pet hospital. They've had to increase their prices to cover for all the increases.
But he thinks it doesn't affect him.
But when I said those things to him, he goes, "You're right. It does affect me."
Yeah.
So it's
that's interesting, though.
But see, that's
is he? You know his political leanings?
Yeah, I'm not going to say.
Okay.
But that is what is going on. People are not listening to what it hit them. It's the economy, stupid. Yeah. So pro-church, pro-life. We've got to. You know, we have almost. I don't want my tax dollars going to a pro-choice organization. I mean, I just don't. And we need to stop that. Trump was doing that.
Well, I don't know that we get to vote where our tax dollars go. I say abortion should be illegal, period.
No, wait. We do.
How?
It's through the House and the Senate. The House and the Senate go in and say, hey, wait, we're giving tax dollars to these people. Stop it right now.
Well, then why would it, what if then Black Lives Matter supporters don't want their tax dollars going to things that benefit white people?
Then they do it the right way. They go to the House and the Senate. They go to Congress.
Abortion, while it's the law of the land, is the law of the land, and it shouldn't be the law of the land. But I don't think they can compel private hospitals to do it or don't do it. But again, the federal government holds all the dollars. They need that $1 billion from the federal government, so they're gonna compromise on their morals for the business.
But
so you got to get the federal government out of everything.
Well, I don't disagree, but you have to take it one step at a time. You're just saying, see, you're back to revolution again. You're back to Civil War.
Oh, I think it's coming.
You're back to Civil War. There is a Civil War. I just sound
like Kramer.
Yeah.
Oh, I think it's coming, buddy.
There is a Civil War coming, but it's where we vote and vote. And
I just switched for the first time, maybe people don't know this, I switched from an independent for 20 years, 25 years
I just said
to the Republican Party because I want to vote in primaries, and I could never associate myself with the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
So doesn't mean I would never vote for a Democrat again, but I can't picture one that I would vote for. Tulsi Gabbard, maybe, but there's some.
Yeah.
For me, the ability, Florida doesn't allow you to vote in primaries if you're not a Republican or a Democrat.
Right.
So I had to pick a party so I can vote in the primaries because I would have voted for in the primaries in 2016. I would have voted for Ted Cruz and not Donald Trump, but I couldn't vote.
Right.
So Florida, and some states let independents vote, but Florida does.
They do. Yeah.
So that's kind of the reason why I finally broke down and picked a political party so I can vote. I think local elections are going to become more and more important to people. I think people here in Pasco County and West Pasco County and they need to get out and pay attention to who the judges are going to be in their areas, who the congressmen, who the state senators are going to be. We need to be. I sent a letter to what's his name, DeSantis. Remember, a year ago, I sent an email to him saying I'm fully expecting that our state governments are eventually going to have to protect our constitutional rights from the federal government.
But what?
Now I'm probably on a watch list, Jim.
Okay.
You probably shouldn't associate with me.
So, all right. I know that we're getting closer to the end. I'm going to take a deep breath here because kind of attacked you there a couple of times. I apologize. But,
doing good. Feeling strong. It's okay.
I will not. Okay. I'm going to go back to the book again. I kind of equate myself. Now, I do not believe in violence. If you're going to protest, it has to be peaceful protesting. I do not believe in violence. I don't believe in the going out in the ships and dumping tea. That's now. Yeah. You know. But when I read about the American Revolution, there were so many people that loved England. They had lived there, but they came to the United States for a better life because England had just started to kind of punish those who did not follow in their footsteps.
Right.
That's what we see right now. This goes back to what we started talking about. The cancel culture is starting to eat itself because here was one of the here's one of the ones that I saw that I really was proud of to say, you're exactly right. They're starting to fall apart. When Neil Young went and said, I'm pulling all my stuff. Now, he did an open letter to everybody. I mean, he sent it out to everybody. I'm pulling all my stuff unless you get rid of Joe Rogan. Now, wait, let me finish this before you get into it. They didn't even discuss it. Spotify didn't even say, we'll take it under consideration. We'll get back to you. It was like the next day his stuff was gone. They were like, who cares? You know, Neil Young.
It's Neil Young.
Yeah, it's Neil Young. But a couple of other people said, well, we're going to leave. And it was all about COVID. It was all about COVID. So what did they do? They went out and found 10 years ago, 12 years ago, stuff where he used the N-word on show.
In conversation, by the way, not calling people the N-word, but quoting people using the N-word.
Yeah. They went out and found a few times where he had done it, and they put together this, this montage of it and said, well, that's the other reason why he needs to be gotten rid of. And Spotify doubled down and said, no. But Joe Rogan was smart. Because he went out and he said, listen, I use those words. I apologize. He says, it's a teachable moment. He said, that is a bad word. We shouldn't use it. So accept my apology. And he says, I'm going to take down podcasts that we find that's in there.
All right, so here's what I think. I think that it is a bad word and you shouldn't use it, but I think nobody should use it. It's not okay for African Americans to use it and white people not to use it. I had a guest on my show on the God Logic Project that dropped the N-word 10 times in the first 20 minutes, black dude. I asked him not to do it, and he did it anyway, right?
Yeah.
So,
because they can.
Yeah. So, but here's the thing: that's not okay. So you can't say your kid could say it, and it's no big deal.
Right,
but my son say it, and he doesn't say it. But this is my example.
Right.
And my son say it, and now he's a racist. That's not okay.
No.
We've taken, by the way, the hate out of hate speech.
Yeah.
Right. So I think what we need to be careful of is the hate, not the speech. So I would worry more about. I would worry less about people that are laughing about things like race and gender, and be more concerned about the people that aren't laughing, that this is very serious to them, that they hate people that are gender confused, and they can't even joke about it. They get so upset. I was watching, I had one of the first HD TVs years ago, and I had a guy over for lunch, and I'm showing him my cool HD TV because it was one of the first ones, right? It was big. It wasn't a flat screen. And so we're watching it, eating lunch, and they did a thing about this is years and years ago, but it was a gay pride march of some sort. It was on the news. Something about gayness was on the news. And this dude got so upset that was on the news. I mean, the things he was saying was shocking, right? And we talked about it. Like, I disagree with you. So anyway, but that's the kind of thing we need to be concerned about.
I agree.
Joe Rogan, even anybody telling jokes that has the N-word in it or singing a song that has it is nothing. It's meaningless. I mean, it's inappropriate, so what?
Yeah.
But it's not hate, right? We need to stop fooling around and start focusing on hate again.
Well, but this is what I'm talking about. The Catholic Church is calling out the DOJ because of all of the attacks on the. If you remember, Black Lives Matters. Gosh, I can't think of his name right off the top, but it'll come to me in a second. Made the statement that all statues of a white Jesus Christ or white Mary, disciples, all these things like this, all artwork should be destroyed.
I just saw somebody else say that too. Another black lady.
Okay, so that's hate speech.
Yeah.
You know that.
Well, yeah, and I don't think fighting racism with racism is going to work.
Oh
right?
no, it's going to.
So you can't say.
Whoopi Goldberg's an example.
Well, no, the example is all white people are racist, whether they realize it or not.
Yeah.
That's a racist statement.
Sure
There's no way you can divide that and not be racist.
Sure.
So we need to as a country, we need to get back to reality and call out hate when we see it and fight hate when we see it, but we can't be chasing ghosts the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
I think this government that you love so much, Jim, this federal government is purposely dividing us. I think they purposely want us fighting each other.
Stop. You keep saying this federal government. I make fun of FBI, okay?
FBI.
Because I have seen FBI do things that I just go, what were you thinking? You know, it's like
in work or in
work,
TV?
In work. You know, it's like, you know, you say, hey, you can't do this, and they look at you and go, here, hold my beer, and they go out and try it, and they end up getting messed up. But I do know that there's a bunch of good FBI agents in there. So when we talk about the federal government, we need to make sure that we pinpoint the corrupt federal government, because I truly do believe that there are people out there working for us that are tired. They were excited about Trump because why? There was a Republican group that supported him. I was listening to one of them yesterday and said, President Trump, please stop talking about January 6th. Please stop talking about the elections. Talk about what you did. Talk about how you put
President Biden or President Trump?
They were talking about President Trump. He was out at a rally, and he was talking about the illegal election that happened. He went on for like 30 minutes about how
Trump
it was.
Did.
Yeah, Trump did. And, oh gosh, I'll get his name. He said, stop talking about that. Talk about how you closed down the wall. And the immigration issue started to talk
about the good things. Stop talking
talk about the gas prices. Talk about energy independent. Talk about inflation, the lowest it's ever been. Talk about the unemployment was the highest it had ever. It was the lowest it had ever been. Jobs, like you said earlier, for the minorities were up. Talk about those things. Quit talking about
the weird stuff.
The weird stuff. Yeah.
Then that's kind of what got him elected, that he was willing to exchange punches. But so part of what bothered me is he that's all he did, right? So he should have been focusing on the positives that came along, because someone that wasn't a big Trump fan, was an anti-Trump, I wasn't a never Trumper, nor was I an only Trumper guy. I go on record as saying he did a great job as president.
Mm-hmm.
I think under incredibly oppressive circumstances. I mean, they were coming after him with everything, right? Absolutely everything. Heck, the FBI, the federal government,
went after him.
Yeah, they falsified FISA applications to get him. So to say, I'm not saying the whole federal government is corrupt. I'm saying the leadership of the federal government is absolutely corrupt. And I think that there are people in the FBI, there are people in the military, which are federal employees that are. I know some that told me they would never be deployed against. They would never accept orders that would deploy them against American citizens.
Yeah. Well, and we could everything that we get involved in, everything that we live in, everywhere we go, there's bad people. But if we don't put a little bit of faith in our government, and the people, okay,
right?
I saw that face. I saw that face.
I have yet to see something impressive in 40 years.
Really?
I mean, when was the last time?
The last 4 years, the 4 years of Trump, you didn't see something impressive?
All I saw is a government going after Trump all the time.
I know, but that's the bad guys. That's the ones we need out. That's why we need to vote and get them out.
So why don't the Republicans do something about it? They just sit there. They just allow for it because they're as guilty as they are.
Really?
Yeah. The only difference is that the left is insane.
Okay.
The first 2 years of Trump's presidency, by the way, with Paul Ryan and all those rhinos, they wanted Trump. They wanted to get Trump as bad as everybody else.
Guess what happened?
They couldn't give in.
Guess what happened?
They had to give in.
Guess what happened?
What?
They're gone.
Yeah.
Do you see Paul Ryan anymore?
No.
Okay. Do you see those?
So
we've only got a few of those left. And
name me some federal, like senators and congressmen, that you would put your full faith in. Ted Cruz.
Tom Cotton.
Tom Cotton's a good guy. I'm not so sure about our guy anymore. Who's the Rubio?
I'd go with Rubio.
I've seen some stuff with him lately that has been unimpressive. He was my guy before Ted Cruz in 2016.
Oh, gosh. Jim Jordan? Jim Jordan's on every night talking about it. Jim Jordan was supposed to be put on the January 6th investigation, and Pelosi blocked him.
The guy with the white hair, he's a good guy, too.
Yeah, but he's
what's
left.
His name? Oh, he's out?
Yeah, he's gone. He doesn't Trey Gowdy.
Trey Gowdy, yeah.
Yeah, but Jim Jordan.
We need those guys.
Oh, sure we do.
And not only just to rattle cages, but they need to prosecute these people.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
During Watergate, the federal government said you can't report on this stuff, and the reporters were like, "Screw you, we'll do whatever we want." Now they'll say, "Okay, we won't."
Look,
we are not the country we were 60 years ago. I promise you.
Oh no, we're not.
We're in big trouble.
But because we fell asleep, and this is the time to wake. Now is the time for the Christian Revolution.
Yeah.
Now is the time for the Christian Revolution. That's just all there is to it. We've got to get this done. We have to push this out here right now. This is why we're saying that this midterm election, we're talking now. This midterm election is important.
Yeah.
This midterm election is so important. People don't realize how. I mean, if you don't realize, we've got to be standing on the steeples of the churches screaming that this is so important.
Here's another thing, and this may be a whole nother show too, but Christians have to not accept the narrative that they shouldn't talk about politics.
Yes.
So guess who decided that the churches shouldn't talk about politics? Not the church, right? The secular world decided the spiritual world shouldn't talk about politics, and the spiritual world was like, okay, right? So the church has to Christians have to be willing to talk about politics and social issues, and they're not, and for a lot of different reasons. But we're convinced, I think, as a people, the church, that it's inappropriate for us to talk about politics or social issues. I think that's a big mistake. I mean, we shouldn't be endorsing candidates from the pulpit, but I think that's the standard. That's as far as I would go.
Okay.
I think we should talk about anything. And not just pastors, but Christians in the town square should be allowed to talk about anything. And willing, not just allowed, willing. They're not even willing.
And I'm going to go back to the major thing that I said. What they're teaching our kids right now is destroying our kids. And as Christians,
we need to be having these conversations with our kids. We need to be, and we're a generation removed. In other words, we need to be educated ourselves on the meaning of separation of church and state. By the way, the Constitution was written not to protect the government from religion. It was written to protect religion from the government.
Yeah.
Right? So we have gotten it so backwards for so long, since the 60s, that we have a whole generation, you and I, that have to be, people that are our age, have to be re-educated in thinking in terms of in constitutional terms, right? Mm-hmm. So we trusted authorities. We surrendered, in essence, our agency, our Christian discernment, and have allowed and they want us to do it again now with the scientists, with Fauci. Mm-hmm. Trust Fauci. Well, Fauci has flip-flopped insanely for a guy that's supposed to be infallible. The guy's made a lot of mistakes, right? The science has settled on COVID, and now all of a sudden the science has changed. Mm-hmm. People have to see that and say we can no longer take the word of these experts. Mm-hmm. We have to exercise our own human agency or Christian discernment in all these issues, and our families' futures depend on it.
Let me, I want to say one thing. We have created this monster. If we have anybody to blame, it is us. Because we have sat on the sidelines. Conservative Christians have sat on the sidelines for so many years and let the government dictate when we can pray, when we can worship, what we can do as far as what we can say in the pulpit. We have allowed it. Yeah. And if you want to have the Civil War, I agree with you. Let's have the Civil War.
Nobody wants to have a Civil War.
Let's have the Civil War. Let's have the Civil War. But be peaceful about it. But come up and say, no more. No more.
Yeah. At some point, we're going to have to say as a people, as American patriots, if not Christians, that there's certain things we're okay with and certain things we're not okay with. Right. We can be tolerant and not celebratory.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
So just because I disagree with you does not mean I hate you.
Right.
We have to stop letting the left, the secular world, define all the terms for us, and
I
then
agree.
we live up to those definitions.
I agree.
That's insane.
I agree.
And we have every right to have a seat at the table.
Yes.
As anybody else, right? So they don't want me talking about social science because I'm not a social scientist, but they want to talk about theology, and they're not pastors, right? Well, I think they should be allowed to discuss theology,
sure,
right? And I should be allowed to discuss quantum physics if I want, for as little as I know about it.
But here's the thing: when you discuss it, have a conversation about it. Both sides learn.
Yeah.
Both sides learn, because just like what you said, they want to have a discussion about theology. But they make a statement that you kind of go, that's not right. And let me show you where we're talking about. Where if you're talking about, quantum physics, and this is your thought, the guy's able to look at you and go, let me explain to you really how it works.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you're more educated.
Well, we'll close here in a minute. I'll close with this little story. I went to a place where Christianity may not be necessarily embraced, right? It's a place of faith, but kind of a secular faith.
Yeah.
So they spent the first beginning of this meeting, and we were going around the room sharing, and they spent the beginning of it talking about how God, God is a punishing God and a hateful God, and he wants to condemn us to hell. I find that hard to believe. My God, smokes pot and drives a Vespa, and there's kind of a watered down assault on Christianity. So I sat through this whole thing, and then I shared, and I said, well, listen, first of all, God loves you. He wants you to be in relationship with him. He's not trying to condemn you. He's trying to save you from that condemnation. And I also told him I was a pastor. And I had a guy who wanted to fight me after the meeting because I said I was a pastor. Well, if we were talking about toilet bowls, wouldn't you want to know I was a plumber?
Yeah.
Right? If we're talking about law enforcement, wouldn't I want to know you're a cop?
Right.
So I said this. You would expect me to say these things because I'm a pastor, but understand it's not that dark. So it was okay for me to sit quietly.
Yeah, and listen to this person.
While they bashed my God,
right?
Or misunderstood my God. Not just one person, but several people. But then one person speaks on God's behalf, in essence, and people get upset.
Yeah.
So
and he wants to fight you.
Yeah.
And this is what we're talking about.
He would have got his ass whooped by a pastor.
This is what we're talking. This is what we're talking about. We can't have a conversation anymore, and that's where we're losing. It's not. We can't discuss what we feel like is important for our kids, because when we do, they shut us down. They tell us that we don't know. I mean, they use the eloquent words like like you said. I like the word you use, however you say it. I never can say it. Acquiesce. Yes, but they use these words, and then they say that we're racist if we disagree with critical race theory.
Yeah.
Critical race theory is not a biblical teaching. So I compare as I've heard,
socially damaging. By the way, it's not just that it's not Christian. It's damaging.
Yeah.
It's
evil. It is. We're not even getting into that part.
Yeah.
If we were just to stand on,
that hurts our community. It doesn't help anything.
It doesn't help anything. It doesn't help anything. There's a new show on Showtime that's going to be talking about how whites have just suppressed the blacks all in history and things like this, and I'm like tired of it. It's not. It does not help our communities. It does not help our country. It doesn't help anything like that to divide us like that. And we've gotten to the point to where we do not have conversations. Yeah. And good heated conversation. I don't have a problem with having a good hearty conversation that at the end we'll agree to disagree, maybe, and go out and have dinner together.
Well, you and I disagree on plenty of things.
Oh, I know.
By the way, I just took your picture on the air, so I've got a cool picture.
I saw that. It's not like you were very.
Nah.
When you do this,
I've kind of given up on people liking me. I just do whatever I want. Most of the jokes I tell, Jim, I tell to make myself laugh. I don't care if anybody thinks they're funny anymore.
Yeah.
Used to be the most important thing in my life was making people laugh. Now I just want to make me laugh.
Right.
That's our show today, guys. We're going to wrap it up here. You got a final thought?
Yeah, I do have a final thought. Listen, I just want to say.
You'd stay on the air all day, Jim. I'm a
3 hours
man.
Maybe. Hey, Joe Rogan stays on for hours. Why can't we? Hey, I just want to say his last thing. We appreciate those that listen. And it is always a blessing when I hear somebody that I have not seen in a long time tell me that they're listening to us on the internet. So please share this with your friends, because we talk about issues that people are interested in.
Yeah.
And we're just two guys, a policeman and a plumber, that have sat down, pray, look over the topics, and we tell you what we're seeing on air. I had 2 people that I have not seen in a while. I ran into 2 different people that, as we were standing there talking, they looked at me and said, I really love you on the internet. And I was like, wow, cool. Unsolicited. So we appreciate you out here that are listening to us. We appreciate you that are sharing us. So don't think for one moment that it doesn't mean something to us when somebody comes up and says, I heard you on the internet and it was incredible, and I've started listening to you. That just makes my day. It makes my day.
And if they want to be on the show, or if they have a topic they want to talk about, I would love to have some law enforcement in here. I did it on my other show anonymously off of the Officer X episode.
Right.
I think that was during the riots. I had a cop in here. If you guys want to be part of the show, listen, if you have somebody struggling with addiction and they need help, if you just simply need prayer, message us at truechristiantalk@info@gmail.com, right? We monitor our email. We'll get with you, and we'll put a show together around you with your story, or we'll have you on the show. We got room in the studio. We can do it via Zoom. If you just want a topic, we can build a show around. That's fine with us as well. If you simply just need prayer, we're here for you guys. We love you guys.
We're going to try to
want to try to make a difference.
Pete Castellani on next week about some bills that are up in Tallahassee right now on abortion.
Okay, who's this guy? Tell them who he
is. He was the director creator of Oasis, which is a pregnancy center.
Oh yeah.
Where they bring in the people who walk in their door, and they found out that they're pregnant and they don't know what to do, so they go. They might not have the money. All these different things that could be the factors of why they're thinking about an abortion, but they don't want to go to Planned Parenthood, so they show up at Oasis, and Oasis takes them in and says, "Let's do a physical." And one of the things that they like to do is do an ultrasound on it. And when they do the ultrasound and hear the heartbeat, most of them say, "Oh my gosh, there's a person there."
Yeah.
And so there's a couple of bills out there that are close to the Texas bill, the 15 weeks. And we need to be praying on that.
Right.
We need to be pushing that.
I think that there should be no killing of babies, but I think we do have to reel in the insanity around that.
Yeah.
2 things that Planned Parenthood doesn't do, by the way, when you go in for
Right.
for your health care, there, air quotes, they don't listen to the heartbeat, and
Right.
they don't do a sonogram.
Right.
So if they don't want you to know that that's a real live
Right.
human baby in there.
Right.
1974, we thought that was a globule mass.
Right.
We didn't realize that it was a human being, and
Right.
now we know.
Right.
So that changes everything.
It does. It does.
So we love you guys. Thank
Yes.
you for watching. If there's anything we do for you, just reach out.
And understand that Kevin and I are still friends, even though we
Yeah.
yelled at each other today. But
we yell at each other off the air too. So it's kind of a love-hate relationship. I love him and he hates me. All right, we love you guys. We'll see you next week. Again, we're going back to 11 o'clock.
Yeah,
right?
we're going back to 11
early
o'clock.
this morning,
Yep.
but
Yep.
11 o'clock next week. Love you guys. And again, share this content, get the word out there. Believe me when I tell you, YouTube and Facebook are not going to help us do it.
No.
So we're relying on you guys. God bless.
Be safe and be blessed. God bless this country.
Amen.